variables on, okay, we look at the monetary variables on the macroeconomic system, right? So we saw yesterday that the monetary policy, which is just the policy that guides the supply of money, is actually one of the main tools that is used to influence the other macroeconomic variables, such as the interest rates, inflation, among others. We use the same macroeconomic policy, the monetary policy, to make a lot of adjustments in the entire economy as they affect a lot of the variables, the macroeconomic variables, right? So most of the times, the monetary policy is linked with other variables, like the fiscal policy as well. The monetary policy is one of the giant tools, because you can see that it can affect almost all the variables. As you just make few adjustments in the supply of money, you can see the changes to almost all these other macroeconomic variables that you deal with. Inflation, right? Interest rates, unemployment, forward balance of payments, like everything is affected. So such that in modern economics, we have seen that there are some other economists that have just believed that you can control the entire economy just by focusing on money, right? The supply of. We have got those guys who are believing like that now in modern economics. That is post-Keynesian, right? After Keynesian economics, you have the modern economics. And anyway, yeah, so that's what is there. So with these guys, what happens is that with these policies, we can use them to make a lot of adjustments that can actually help us to achieve a lot of economic objectives or the economic goals that we have. Mostly, when you are running the economy, you have got some policies, some things that you're targeting on, or some goals to achieve. Number one, your goal is to achieve stable employment. It's one of the goals, the main economic goals. Okay, to achieve high level of employment. We want to achieve high level of employment. To achieve high level of employment simply means making sure that you do not have or you have low levels of inflation, right? Low levels of unemployment. Okay, you and I, being economists, you understand that you cannot have zero unemployment. That is not possible, isn't it? You cannot have 0% of unemployment. Even all the giant world economies, like the giant economies in the world, they still have unemployment to some kind. Because we did say that unemployment actually is categorized into like different, it exists into different types. And starting with the frictional, right? We talked about frictional unemployment, or you talked about it. Frictional unemployment, okay, which is the kind of unemployment that is a little bit temporal. It's usually temporal, because it happens or it occurs when people are trying to switch between the jobs, right? They are trying to switch in between the jobs. That's frictional unemployment. That person, those people, we say they are frictional unemployed. A person leaves this job because they are looking for the job that best suits their skill, right? At that time, we say this person is frictionally unemployed. People keep on moving in between the jobs. Those fresh graduates, people when they just graduate from the universities, what happens is that it might take them some time to get the job that really suit their skills. So it is rare that you can just graduate from the university today and get the job that you really want and that suits your skill or your desire. Yeah. So most of the times you find that those guys wait a bit. That waiting period, we say they frictionally unemployed. Okay, but when you are still a full-time student, you are not counted in the labor force that you are aware of. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
It is usually very difficult to avoid frictional unemployment because people will always move in between the jobs. The other one is structural unemployment. Structural unemployment. So with the structural unemployment, this one occurs actually when there are some mismatch, okay? We have got some mismatch in skills between workers and what the employers want, right? So what usually happens is that when you get trained, I can give you this short example of what used to happen before the 1980s. Remember that the Zambian economy before 1980s depended on copper highly. And that time, many people went to the Zambian Institute of Technology, ZIT, Copper Belt University nowadays. I'm sure you're aware that is what it used to be called. First, it was Unzando. From Unzando, then it became to ZIT, Zambia Institute of Technology, then CBU. Yeah, you're aware of that history, obviously. So what used to happen during that time, many people went to the Copper Belt to study mining engineering, to study engineering. And what used to happen is that instantly, once you graduate as an engineer, you'd be employed to work right there in the Copper Belt. And that's why when you go to Copper Belt, it's multicultural. The Copper Belt is full of different tribes of people. They're just there, right? Those speaking, they might be speaking them, but they're people of different tribes. So what happened after somewhere 1980s, right? Somewhere around 1980s, the copper prices fell, right? The copper prices fell. After that, then there was a shift, right? There was that shift, but most of the people had started that. So you find that because now the minings would not absorb as many people as possible, people needed to go back to school, relearn other skills that are relevant to the field. Okay. I'm just giving you that history, what happened. And after some time there was that time when teaching was booming. You remember that time, Mr. Moses?
Yes.
When many people would go do teaching, immediately you do teaching, you're employed, ta, ta, ta. Afterwards, again, there was a paradigm shift. There was a shift again. So what came next? Nowadays you have what? Is it no? Like previously we had nursing, right? Those things in health sciences. So people would go there and start until something is full, right? Until the industry is full, it can no longer absorb people. And then that's when people stop studying that and now move. And the good part is that in the long run, more people will come into the business school. That is the projection. Okay. So now what happens is that when your skill is no longer relevant, you need to go back and learn other skills. For example, you and I being understanding accounting, you understand that there were those days when accounting was just more of bookkeeping, right? Writing, there were a lot of papers, a lot of paperwork, such that a company would employ a lot of accountants just to do it, simple work, right? But nowadays, you can just get a senior accountant, you deal with computers. Come on, just one or two, they can run almost the entire company, just one person, and leave them with computers there. You can do all those things, do everything on computer. You can prepare the amortization schedules, all those things. You can do them right on the computer and you don't suffer because the paperwork party has been reduced by computer. So technology is replacing a lot of people and their skills that they are going to learn in the university, they are becoming irrelevant now. If you graduate as a fresh graduate and you don't really know how to use computers, you just learn how to do these things using your hands. When you come in the industry, you might find pressure because when you come back in the industry, you find that you just have to deal with computer, right? Work is made easy. Madam Nyambe can attest to the truth, isn't it? Just use a computer, right?
Yes, a computer. Now with
Yes.
internet, it's even
You see
fast.
now. So you see that if you just went to get those old skills and you are not up to the industry, please, you might find you might graduate as if you don't even know anything, as if you didn't even go to the university. And that's why there is a very serious advocacy that the universities have to make whatever they teach relevant, and they have to move according to the pace that we are moving at in technology. There are some schools that still teach students in a very, very old way, things using hands. So you find that when they come in the industry, they just know how to do things using hands. And they take them to the computer, it's really a problem. So they really look blank, like as if they didn't even go to school. Yeah. Anyways, so that's what is there. So you find that your skills have become not relevant. Then you remain unemployed. During that period, we say that you are structurally unemployed. Is that clear? Now, the total sum of frictional plus structural unemployment, when you add the two, you produce what is called natural rate of unemployment. It's natural rate of unemployment. It's natural. It occurs, the natural rate of unemployment occurs even when the economy is at its full potential. Okay? When the economy is at its full potential, when the economy is operating very well, but that level of unemployment which exists is called the frictional unemployment. Yeah, it's called the frictional unemployment. Then from there, do I have any question on unemployment? Like one of the macroeconomic goals to make sure that there is employment. Yeah, we cannot really have zero unemployment, but at least we can always have some unemployment. But the idea is to reduce that natural rate, that rate of unemployment, ensuring that there is just that normal rate, somewhere around 5%, 4% unemployment, okay, which is natural. Also that you have double digits, 15% unemployment, 20%, 40%. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. So you will see that when you just change the monetary policy, for example, you increase the supply of money. Once you increase the supply of money, what will happen is that number one, there'll be more money in the circulation, there'll be more investments, meaning there are more jobs created, isn't it? Relaxing other variables, of course, keeping other things constant. Then the other goal is the price stability. Okay, price stability. What is the difference between inflation rate and inflation? Could there be any difference? Could there be any difference?
Inflation rate and inflation.
Inflation.
And it's not just one and the same thing.
Interesting. Madam Nyambe, what do you think? What could be the difference?
Maybe the rate would be like the movement at which the inflation
Okay.
yeah, either goes up or down, like the influencing something.
Yes. So what happens with inflation is just the overall increase, right? In the prices of goods, in the general price level. That's inflation, right? Then the rate at which the figures, these prices are increasing is what matters. Okay. So the prices can go up, but the question is that how fast, right? How fast are they going up? The prices can be changing upward. Usually the prices, there is a theory that says prices are stick downward, isn't it? They are stick downward. What we mean is that the prices it's very difficult to bring the prices down. Like, prices can easily move upward, not downward. Even if you think like they try to do what, no, fuel has become cheap, what, you find that maybe they'll just remove 2 kwacha, something. Prices are very difficult to bring down. The people will just remain there. So what the government, the focus is not really to reduce like inflation. It is to cut on the rate. You're reducing the rates, okay? Are you getting what I'm saying, right?
Yes, please.
We target the rate at which the prices are changing. Yes. So that if the rate is reduced, it's smaller, which is even better, it will take a lot of time. So we want price stability. It's a good economy. It's a focus of, it's a goal actually of every economy to have stable prices so that you can easily plan. And like you go today to the shops, you find that the prices have become, yesterday you went, you are buying things at this much, you go next week, you find that they have added, all the prices have increased maybe by 5 kwacha, you are shortage, you have a shortage of something, you get it. But when there is a stability, you can easily plan for the future. And that is actually a very good thing. That is the goal of every economy, to have stable prices. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. So that is what you focus on. You have to make sure that the prices are stable. That is making sure that you cut on inflation rates, you reduce the rates. Yeah. Then you will be fine. Then the other goal that you have is introducing stability in the economic growth, right? Ensure that there is economic growth. Yeah, it's our goal to ensure that the economy is growing, and I'm sure that you are aware of the parameters that we use, or the tools that we use to measure the growth of the economy, right? Can be looking at the rate at which maybe the GDP is growing, isn't it? The GDP, the gross domestic product, is growing. The gross national product, GNP, is growing. Then ultimately, you know that as the economy is growing, that will ensure that that will help you to lower the levels of unemployment, and obviously the price levels are made stable. Then you have more industries that are there. The standard of living of people has been elevated. All that is the focus of every economy. So we have already talked about 3 of them, the goals. Number 1 is to ensure that there is the high employment, which means there is a low unemployment levels. If anything, we just have natural rate, you'll notice a better economy. Then you have to have stable prices, have to have the stable growth of the economy. Yeah. There should be stability in the financial markets as well. Very, very important to have stability in the financial markets, right? Because as you may be aware that when the financial markets are not very, very stable, then it is very difficult to to plan. Okay, very difficult to plan. You can plan today, okay, we are going to do this. For example, we are going to invest in such type of assets. Then when you invest in those assets, for example, let's say you are going to buy stocks, right? You buy shares, you buy stocks. And again, since the financial markets are not stable, then the prices of shares fall, right? There is a downturn in the business cycle, especially that pertains to the financial markets. You see that there is the problem. So what will happen is that you will be affected as an economy. So what happens is that the goal of every economy is to ensure that the financial market, okay, that refers to the buying of those shares, those things, the issuing out the bonds, the debentures, all those subjects around that. Okay, that adds up into the financial market. Like there is just a stability. It's usually very unpredictable. Yeah, very, very unpredictable. You can't predict exactly the prices of the shares, how they will be, whether they will fall or whether they will rise. Those things just happen. But there is a problem in the economy and in the financial market, and the prices just fall. And initially invested, you had bought maybe 5 million shares in a certain company. Maybe for example, now, on ShopRite, you said it is around 64 kwacha one share, right? Then you buy shares maybe worth 1 million, and later on, just after 3 weeks, the prices of shares from ShopRite fall as low as maybe 18 kwacha. Airtel is 80, somewhere around 18. Their shares are around 18 kwacha. Now you see that you would have lost, like your shares would have lost a lot of value. Then it will take some time to get those share prices again back to where you found them. Because if you sold those shares, you bought them at 64 kwacha one, then you sell them at 18 kwacha one, you would have lost a lot of money. You understanding, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that is what is actually very, very important. You can read about the street crash of 1929 in the US. Yeah, that you can easily read it from Mishkine. That book I shared yesterday, you saw it, right?
Yes.
Yes, that is actually it's one of the recommended books, because we've seen that most of these modules were being extracted from the same book. And even your notes, your lecture notes, I reviewed them yesterday night. They are all extracted from the same book. So which means if you can read the book, you can have a deeper content. Is that okay?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Foreign exchange markets have to be stable. It's another target, right? Foreign exchange markets. Okay. How can you strengthen the kwacha? Madam Nyambe, what can you do to strengthen the kwacha? Or what do you think affects the kwacha? How does the kwacha lose value, gain value? I just want this short subject around that. Really, very interesting.
Maybe the kwacha is affected by interest, like foreign exchange rates.
Foreign exchange rates?
Yes.
Yes.
Also by debt, the amount of debt that an economy has.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does the debt affect the currency, the local currency?
Maybe if you have a lot of debt, which means there will not be so much currency in circulation. So you have less money in circulation.
Okay.
I'm just thinking.
No, it's okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Mr. Moses, what do you think about stability in the foreign exchange market?
Stability in the foreign market, foreign exchange market. I think my understanding is, I think they need to improve on the government policies with regards to foreign policies. Then the other thing, we need to increase the export market, and as opposed to importing a lot of goods, meaning that if we are importing, we have a lot of leakages in terms of
The currency.
currencies. Yes, meaning that there will be less forex coming into our country. There will be less forex coming into our country. So if we export more, meaning that we will be getting more forex, hence the stability on the market exchange rate.
Oh, okay, okay. And all the submissions are okay. So what usually happens, starting from there, let me start from there. How the currency is affected? It is affected, number one, by its own scarcity. Is that clear? How scarce
Come
is
again?
that currency? The currency is affected by its own scarcity, how scarce it is.
Okay.
Okay, its availability. Okay, so what happens is that when you have got too much supply, for example, of the local currency, the kwacha, in circulation, when the kwacha is too much, like there's too much, I'm showing you how money supply, how the monetary policy affects. When you have got too much supply of money than necessary in the local currency, what will happen? There will be inflation. The prices of goods will even go up in the local market. And at the same time, since the currency is in too much supply, the local currency, what will happen is that it will lose value against the other foreign currency. So what happens is that the foreign currency as well, if it is in high supply, then the foreign currency loses value against the local currency. You understand that, right? So for example, riding on the same point that you have given, when there is high supply of, for example, of dollars, we have a lot of dollars coming from outside, right? Maybe by exporting, they're giving us a lot of dollars. You find that dollars will be a lot in our circulation. You're following, right? In our country. So like the dollar will be in high supply. Once the dollar is in high supply, then it will lose value against our local currency, as simple as it is. You're following? Hello?
Yes.
Yes. So the idea is that that's why when you form the policies that you are forming, number one, they hinge around, number one, reducing, like increasing the scarcity of your local currency and increasing the supply of the external currency, which is the foreign currency. So when you ensure that the policy that you form, just as you said, you increase maybe exports, whatever you do, you try to help to set the policy such that the more money, more currency, external currency is coming from abroad, coming into the country. For example, in this respect, we're talking about the dollar. Have to make sure that more of US dollar is coming into the country, either by exports or by other means. But we just want to make sure that more of that comes, and at the same time we try by all the means to reduce the supply of the local currency. Then you would have strengthened the local currency. You're following, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's why there is an issue of now commenting on the debt that the economist has said, the economist Nyambe. It has been said that when you have got too much debt, how the debt affects directly is number one. When the external investors look at your financial statements, okay, the balance of payments, of course. They look at the balance of payments of the entire country. They look at how much debt you have as a country. It poses fear to them, just as you do when you're analyzing the companies, right? Where to invest your share, to buy shares in. I'm sure you also analyze their financial statements, isn't it? You look at how much debt they have. Because if they have a lot of debt, there is a higher probability that they are not going to give us our money, right? How are the chances that if they have a debt, they are it's just like from the practical and personal level. Look at, you want to give someone a debt, and you hear that they owe a lot of people. Obviously, you'd be afraid that, can they manage to pay me back when they have a lot of people to pay? You get it, eh? So even the external investors, when they look at your economy and you have a lot of debt, then they are afraid of investing in your country. Then, since them by investing, they bring the foreign currency. Following, eh? They bring the foreign currency. So if they are not investing in your country, it means that you don't have the foreign currency. There will be low supply of the foreign currency. So if the foreign currency becomes scarce, more than your local currency, what happens is that once it becomes scarce, it gains power over your local currency. So scarcity is what helps the currency to gain what? To gain power. Is that clear?
Yes.
If you have seen what has happened to the policy rate, has the interest has the interest rate been raised or reduced at the central bank right now? Recent, I'm sure you're following the trends. What happened?
I think it has been raised upward.
It has been raised upwards. So could you explain the economic phenomenon? Why do you think it has been raised? Looking at what is happening. Madam Nyambe, why do you think the rate has been increased?
So this one, I don't know why. No, the effects that follow. I just know that the interest rates will increase in lending interest rates.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. Have you observed that in the recent past, the kwacha has been losing value?
Yes.
Yes. So it has come to the attention of the central bank to evaluate the kwacha, to evaluate. That is to increase the value to the currency, right? Or help it to appreciate. So what they have done, if you want to increase the supply, to increase the power of the currency, when you increase the policy rate, when you increase the interest rate, what will happen is that you are reducing the supply of money in the economy. That I explained already yesterday, isn't it?
Mm.
You know how that is connected. When you increase the interest rate, you're reducing the supply of money in the economy, right? It becomes very expensive for people to borrow from the central bank. The company, what's this? The commercial banks are no longer borrowing. And if they don't borrow, they don't issue out loans, then loans become expensive. We no longer have enough money in the economy, right? The idea, people will be complaining, no, we don't have money in the economy. The idea is to evaluate, is to give value to the local currency so that it becomes as scarce as possible. You get it, right? When the local currency becomes scarce as much as possible, then you will ensure that on the other hand, we form policy that will ensure that the external guys, the external investors, or the foreign exchange, like the foreign currency comes into our country. Try by all the means, so that we ensure that the USD is in high supply in the local currency in the country. When the USD, the euro, okay, the pounds are in high supply within our country, then at the same time, we don't have to increase the supply of our money, our currency. We have to make sure that the other currency is the one that is in much supply, right? And then our local currency is in low supply. So the idea is to reduce the supply of money so that you can strengthen the kwacha. And this can happen in commercial break on an individual level, right? You have heard that if you are an individual, if you are in too much supply, you lose value. True or false? In some others, this is debatable, right?
Yes, it is.
Subjected to debate, but that's true somehow. Like if you were all over, imagine you're all over, you're Israelites, you're just all over. You lose value, right?
Yeah,
Those people are very difficult to catch, very difficult to find, right? then you gain value. So you don't have to be in too much supply. Have to be scarce enough, then you appreciate, right? In terms of the value. And that was just commercial break. So basically, you make sure that you increase the scarcity, then that the scarcity increases the value of the currency. So all those things happen, okay? So the goal of the central bank, now, of course, the goal of every economy via the central bank is to increase the stability of the foreign exchange to ensure that the exchange rates are just that stable. Also, today, the kwacha is at 14. Tomorrow, it is at 21. The other day, it is at 25. You understand? Your goal as an economist is to make sure that there is stability. It's just around there. If it's at 15, it's just there. If possible, if you can manage, you just keep it there for the whole year or 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But that is a lot of work, really, because you understand that this is externally designed, it's determined by the markets. So you don't have power over it. So you just have to make some adjustments so that you can try to move towards that. For example, Zambia cannot say, okay, let us fix that the kwacha and dollar will be this much. You can't, you can't say that, okay? You can't say, okay, let it be this much. You can't determine and say, let it be this much, because it is dependent on the forces of demand and supply. So you just have to make sure you see the trend and then you make adjustments. Okay. You see that a rise in the value of the currency makes exports more expensive, right? If your currency rises, then the exports become expensive, right? And
yes.
Yes. Whereas if the value of your currency declines, then what happens when your kwacha depreciates? You have domestic inflation, right? That's why I've seen that when your currency depreciates, loses value against the foreign currency, what happens? The prices of the goods in the country, they go up, right?
Yes.
You have domestic inflation once the currency depreciates. That's why, because now the kwacha is trading somewhere around $20, like 20 kwacha, $1, somewhere there. What has happened to the prices of the goods? If you go back in the markets, you see that the prices of goods have increased again. People are saying, no dollar. Okay, you are understanding this better. So the extreme movements in the currency can therefore have a very dangerous impact on exporting industries and can also have serious inflationary consequences, or if the economy is open and is dependent on imports, right? Those are problems that come. So what usually happens is that your target now as an economist is to ensure that there is what? Stability. It's really a lot of work, yeah, to do. There's much thinking involved, yeah, much experiments. So people who are seated, they're just there to complain, right? They just complain. The country is just there to complain. Oh, the dollar, what, Johnny? The thing is that, you as a country, you can't determine. So just have sure that you have to make sure that the way how it works, it is purely the work of the central bank to adjust all these movements in the monetary sector, because they are the ones that control the entire economy when it comes to the money part, the monetary sector, using the monetary policy. So they have to make sure that they make all those necessary adjustments. We have very serious and very qualified economists, okay, at the central bank, very much qualified people. They are there. They know what to do. But you know where the problem is? The problem is that independency is usually not pure, okay? The independence of the central bank. I think it's one of the topics that we discuss within this international economics, in this monetary econ. the central bank is not purely independent. So there are those debates, should it be independent or should it not be independent? Because what happens, those guys, again, they are supposed to make sometimes very independent decisions, right? The decisions that are very independent. But the problem is that their decisions are affected by political, you know, there's some politics involved. So they are controlled by external power, by the government. You get it, okay? Because some of the policies that the central bank have to undertake, they cannot really be good for politics. Okay? So you will see that the politicians, for example, what happened somewhere, you saw that it is not, the central bank is aware that if you start dishing out money for political gain, you're giving out money. What happens? You're increasing the supply of money in the circulation unnecessarily, right?
Yes.
Yes. Unnecessarily, you're increasing the supply of money. You're just giving out money because you're a political party, you're the ruling party, you're just giving out. So you have a lot of money in the sector, and you know what the impact is? You have high inflation, and at the same time, what happens? Your currency, the local currency, will lose value. The moment you start doing that, the currency loses value against the other external currencies. Then you say, no dollar, what, and the inflation, there will be also inflation in the country. You have a problem. The currency has lost value, okay? And at the same time, yeah, you'll find that the imports become very expensive. The things in the country become expensive because of that. But when you look at the bank, the government, on the other end, the government will be interested in doing what? In supplying money for their political gain, isn't it? They want to dish out money for popularity. We are giving out money. But the central bank will not be happy about that, right? It is not in their view because they understand properly the impact of what they're doing. But again, since they are not independent, they're under the government, they will be quiet, right? They'll just leave the government to do that. And the government is destroying the economy. And then the specialists are quiet. But if you leave them to be independent, they will make their own movements that are relevant, that are needed. And that's why maybe you can put as one of the advocates. You can be, or it can be one of the reasons why you should advocate for independence of the central bank, so that what they do actually does not conflict, is not affected by the politicians. Is that clear?
Yes.
Any question?